Beginning our 7 to 9 hours here on Live Impact News inside the Impact Studio on WCNC Plus. I'm Colin Mayfield. We're going to be alongside with you for the next 2 hours as we look at a number of different headlines happening in real time. When news breaks, we're already there. That's what WCNC Plus is good for. So we actually were awaiting a big announcement from U.S. Representative Nancy Mace. down near Charleston, and she did so on or at her Daniel Island office a little bit earlier. This is on in relation to a lawsuit that she's discussed. She did so in February during a House speech, and now a woman that has been identified as a potential victim of a sexual assault filed a lawsuit against the three men that Mace called predators during that House speech back in February. So this story continues to grow and get bigger, and some interesting revelations and allegations made from the representative earlier today. So let's go to this as she held a press conference earlier this afternoon.
All right. I'm here today to comment on a class action lawsuit that was filed in Charleston County by Mary Beth Mullaney this afternoon, just within the last few hours. I'm going to first read you the complaint. Plaintiff Jane Doe, by way of this complaint, brings the below claims against Patrick Bryant, John Osborne, Eric Bowman, and Palmer Group LLC, collectively as defendants, through her undersigned attorney, respectfully alleges unto this honorable court as follows. Plaintiff brings claims against defendants for wrongful intrusion into private affairs, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, premise liability, defamation, abusive process, negligence per se, negligence, gross negligence, and conspiracy. At all times relevant to this complaint, plaintiff was a resident of Charleston County, South Carolina. Defendant Bryant is a resident of Charleston County, South Carolina. Defendant Osborne is a resident of Charleston County, South Carolina. Defendant Bowman is a resident of Charleston County, South Carolina. Defendant Palmer Group LLC is a for-profit South Carolina corporation registered with the South Carolina Secretary of State and regularly conducts business in Charleston County. Bowman is the registered agent. Upon information and belief, Bowman owns and operates the company. Venue is proper for this judicial circuit because of the unlawful acts which are the subject of this complaint occurred in Charleston County. On February 10, 2025, South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace, and I am not Jane Doe, by the way. On February 10, 2025, South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace delivered a speech on the floor of the United States House of Representatives regarding a bill she introduced to combat voyeurism known as the Stop Voyeurism Act. This bill seeks to broaden the scope of federal laws against video voyeurism beyond federal lands, impose harsher penalties for offenders, and create a civil right of action for victims of voyeurism, allowing them to sue perpetrators. In her speech, Congresswoman Mace said last year, I had to tell a woman she'd been raped. She had no idea because she was incapacitated when it happened. I knew because I accidentally found photos and videos of her assault. I saw one of Patrick Bryant's business associates, John Osborne, sexually assaulting her at the home of Eric Bowman. Patrick Bryant was present, and he and Eric Bowman both had their phones out during the rape. I found a video recording and photos of the assault on Patrick Bryant's phone. I would later learn these men planned her assault. Plaintiff is the woman who Congresswoman Mace, one of the women Congresswoman Mace was speaking about. Bryant is Mace's former fiancé, and the plaintiff's former boss. He employed her. Bryant, Osborne, and Bowman are wealthy entrepreneurs, close personal friends, and business associates. Plaintiff is a young woman who between 2017 and 2019 was initially employed as Bryant's personal assistant, then worked for two companies owned by Bryant. In October of 2018, plaintiff was 23 years old at the time and was working two jobs. She worked for one of Bryant's companies during the day and had a second job as a server to supplement her income. On Thursday, October 25, 2018, at approximately 7 p.m., the plaintiff met a girlfriend for drinks at the restaurant where she worked. Because they offered her employee discounts and money was tight. Plaintiff and her friend sat outside the patio. Plaintiff noticed that her boss, Bryant, was at the bar drinking with Osborne and Bowman. Plaintiff had been on several dates with Osborne, who was married with two kids but separated at the time. Plaintiff knew she was not the only woman Osborne was dating. Plaintiff was familiar with Bowman because she had seen him at several company parties hosted by Bryant, and she knew he owned a local sports team in Charleston. Bryant, Bowman, and Osborne visited plaintiff's table several times and bought the women drinks. Around 9 p.m., plaintiff's friend went home. Plaintiff, Bryant, Bowman, and Osborne went to Home Team Barbecue on Sullivan's Island, where Osborne purchased drinks for plaintiff. Around 11 p.m., plaintiff noticed Osborne had left her at Home Team. She texted Osborne asking him where he was and if he was okay. Osborne responded by sending several angry and hostile texts. Osborne was angry at the plaintiff because he believed she was paying more attention to Bryant than to him. He texted, "Go blank and have fun." Plaintiff was taken aback by Osborne's text because she felt she was paying attention to him. Moreover, Bryant was her boss, and she was not interested in him romantically, and Osborne knew that. At approximately 12:15 a.m. on October 26, 2018, plaintiff Bryant and Bowman went to 3224 Marshall Boulevard on Sullivan's Island, where Bowman lived, with Jane Doe witness and their children from previous marriages. The five-bedroom home is approximately 5,000 square feet, is across the street from the ocean, has a built-in hot tub and pool, and is owned by Palmer Group LLC, one of Bowman's many businesses. Bowman had video and audio cameras installed throughout the home, which were accessible from a cell phone. Jane Doe witness heard them come in. She accessed the cameras from her phone and could see and hear much of what happened. She was unable to see everything because Bowman turned the cameras off. However, Jane Doe witness turned the cameras back on from her phone. According to Jane Doe witness, plaintiff appeared to be very intoxicated and was barely able to walk or talk. Jane Doe witness heard Bowman and Bryant trying to coax plaintiff into one of the empty bedrooms. Plaintiff, however, went back to the pool deck instead. Plaintiff stumbled into the pool fully clothed and screamed loudly. Bowman and Bryant laughed at her and filmed her on their cell phone. Plaintiff then went into the house, took off her wet clothes, covered herself with throw pillows, and passed out on the couch in Bowman's living room wearing only a black bra and no underwear. Bryant and Bowman called Osborne. They told him plaintiff was passed out and they needed to come get her. Shortly after, Osborne showed up. Jane Doe witness documented what she saw in writing that night in an email she used for her diary. Jane Doe witness emailed the diary entry to herself at 7:58 a.m. on October 26, 2018. Below are excerpts from her email. Then Bowman and Bryant went to take pictures of plaintiff, first naked, but covered with pillows. Then they removed all of the pillows while she was still passed out and took more photos of her totally exposed. They left her like that in the middle of the house and went back to drink in the kitchen. When Osborne got there, he joined them in the kitchen. They continued talking about why you bang some girls and not others, and how they don't care who's married or not, and told Osborne that he needed to get plaintiff dressed because they didn't want to touch her. But before that, he should bang her on the couch while they watched. They decided to pour new drinks first, and Bowman killed the living room camera. When I turned it back on, Bowman and Bryant were sitting on chairs, both taking pictures, while John began kissing, fingering, and performing oral sex on plaintiff, who was still passed out. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Bowman and Bryant took pictures on their cell phones of plaintiff's private parts while she was unconscious, wearing a bra and no underwear. Plaintiff did not consent to these pictures, nor did she have the capacity to consent when they took these pictures. Osborne digitally penetrated plaintiff and performed, I can't even say it, on her while Bowman and Bryant filmed it. Plaintiff was unconscious and did not consent or have the capacity to consent. Bowman, Bryant, and Osborne conspired to perpetrate several criminal acts against the plaintiff, violating state and federal laws. They agreed that Osborne would perform sexual acts on plaintiff, and Bryant and Bowman would watch him violate plaintiff and film it. The crimes that they conspired to commit include but are not limited to sexual battery, according to South Carolina Code 16-3-651. Plaintiff did not consent, nor did she have the mental capacity to consent because she was mentally incapacitated as defined by South Carolina Code 16-3-651F. She was physically helpless as defined by South Carolina Code 16-3-651G. Bowman and Bryant and Osborne's actions against plaintiff violated criminal sexual conduct in the third degree. South Carolina Code annotated 16-3-6541B, which states a person is guilty of criminal sexual conduct in the third degree if the actor engages in sexual battery with the victim and the actor knows or has reason to know the victim is mentally defective, mentally incapacitated, or physically helpless. Defendant's actions against plaintiff also constituted assault and battery in the second degree as set forth under 16-3-600 D1B. Bowman, Bryant, and Osborne had a lewd and lascivious intent when they perpetrated these acts on plaintiff. These acts were perpetrated without her knowledge or consent for their own sexual gratification. Bowman and Bryant are culpable for the sexual battery perpetrated on plaintiff under the theory of accomplice liability because they planned to commit the sexual battery and were present when it occurred. At approximately 2 a.m., Bowman texted Jane Doe witness and instructed her to come downstairs and bring clothes, as one of Bryant's employees had come over, fallen into the pool, taken off her clothes, and passed out on the couch. Bowman was unaware that Jane Doe witness had witnessed their criminal acts in real time on the house cameras. Bowman and Jane Doe witness told Jane Doe witness he didn't want to touch plaintiff because she was naked, so she needed to dress the plaintiff in dry clothes. Jane Doe witness did as she was told, and she dressed the plaintiff. While Jane Doe witness was dressing her, plaintiff opened her eyes briefly. She looked scared and confused. After Jane Doe witness dressed plaintiff, Osborne left with the plaintiff. When she woke up, Jane Doe witness looked for the video of the sexual assault on the house cameras, but Bowman had already deleted the video. At 7:58 a.m., Jane Doe witness emailed a diary entry to herself detailing what she observed. She emailed it to herself because she was fearful of Bowman, did not want him to find the email. Plaintiff woke up in bed with Osborne at his residence on James Island wearing Jane Doe witness's clothes. Plaintiff had little to no memory of the night. Osborne told her she was drunk, fell into the pool, and Bowman and Bryant called him to come get plaintiff. He told her Jane Doe witness gave her clothes because plaintiff's clothes were wet. The next day, plaintiff texted a friend she met for drinks as she had blacked out and didn't remember much of the night. A day after the assault, Bryant told plaintiff he was planning on coming to the restaurant where she worked on October 28th and asked her to arrange for him to be seated in her section. Plaintiff told her manager that Bryant asked her to be seated in her section. Bryant sat in her section and left her a 50% tip. On October 30th, plaintiff had the following text exchange with Bowman on Telegram. Plaintiff: I have Jane Doe witness's clothes. How can I get those back to her? Bowman said, LOL, wear them over. Plaintiff said, and then jump into the pool. Bowman said, seems like some logical steps. Plaintiff: I wish I could remember. Bowman: you're destructive when you're smashed. It was hilarious, though. Plaintiff: did I wreck anything? I'm sure I was encouraged by the laughter. Bowman: no worries. You're 100% fine. You seem to be having fun. So we just sat and enjoyed the show. On or about November 1st, 2018, plaintiff texted Bowman and asked for his address and left Jane Doe witness's clothes on the doorstep. Bowman, Bryant, and Osborne concealed the sexual battery videos and photos from plaintiff for years. Defendants acted knowingly, intentionally, and maliciously with intent to deceive and mislead the plaintiff. After the assault, plaintiff went on a few dates with Osborne and stopped seeing him in December of 2018. At the office Christmas party in December 2018, Bryant and the plaintiff took luge shots together. The party featured an open bar, DJs, photo booths, and ice luges. Plaintiff has a video on her phone of the two of them simultaneously doing shots, and she has a picture from the photo booth that shows Bryant kissing on her cheek. Bryant was known to hire women in their early 20s who regularly hosted parties and retreats for his employees that included excessive drinking. Bryant often sought plaintiff out at work parties and invited her to events where alcohol was served. Plaintiff got intoxicated at the Christmas party. Bryant took her home in an Uber. Plaintiff remembers waking up in the back seat of an Uber with her head in Bryant's lap, and he was kissing her. When the Uber dropped plaintiff off at her house, Bryant followed her in and got into bed with her. Plaintiff's roommate heard plaintiff come in, and she went into plaintiff's room to check on her. She saw Bryant lying next to plaintiff with his arms around her. Plaintiff's roommate saw that plaintiff was intoxicated. She recognized Bryant as plaintiff's boss and knew he was much older than plaintiff. She also knew that plaintiff was not romantically interested in Bryant, who was her boss. It appeared to plaintiff's roommate that Bryant was attempting to have sex with plaintiff. Plaintiff's roommate yelled at Bryant and told him he needed to leave. When Bryant didn't immediately get up to leave, she screamed, "Get the fuck out of our house." Bryant finally left. In February 2019, Bryant invited plaintiff to attend several parties with him the night of the Super Bowl. In March 2019, Bryant told the plaintiff that his date was on a concert with him. Plaintiff went with him to the concert. When plaintiff worked for Bryant, she struggled financially because her starting salary was only $28,500. Plaintiff and the other employees were regularly required to work 60 hours a week. They were not paid overtime compensation. When they worked over 40 hours a week. Plaintiff had to get a second job waiting tables so that she could pay her bills. She was often exhausted from working long hours for Bryant's company as well as holding a second job. In April 2019, plaintiff asked Sean Moffitt, her manager, for a raise to $35,000 so she would no longer have to have a second job. Moffitt refused to give a raise. Since Bryant purported to be plaintiff's friend and plaintiff had previously been his personal assistant, plaintiff complained to Bryant about Moffitt's refusal to give her a raise. Leaving Bryant would speak up to Moffitt on her behalf. Since plaintiff had previously worked as his personal assistant and Bryant knew she worked long hours, was a good employee, and was struggling financially, she expected Bryant to give Moffitt the go-ahead to give her a raise. That didn't happen. Several months after she resigned, plaintiff learned that another former employee had filed a class action suit against the company. Bryant and Moffitt alleging wage theft, seeking unpaid overtime. The plaintiff joined the lawsuit because she believed she was entitled to be paid for the overtime hours she worked, since Bryant, Moffitt, and the company profited at her expense as well as employees' expense by violating labor laws. On the same day that plaintiff joined the lawsuit, Bryant sent her the below indignant messages via Telegram and Instagram insinuating that the plaintiff betrayed him. And it's in the complaint. Bryant's brazen messages indicated that he was confident plaintiff had no knowledge or indication of the crimes he perpetrated on her while she was unconscious, leading plaintiff to believe that she might have been drugged. When plaintiff didn't respond to Bryant's text, he had Bowman contact plaintiff via Facebook with veiled threats to publicly embarrass her if she didn't drop out of the lawsuit. Bowman told plaintiff he had, quote, security footage of her, quote, smashed at his house, and he insinuated that the video would be used to discredit her if she didn't drop out of the lawsuit. Plaintiff took this to mean that he had video of her falling into the pool because she vaguely remembered Bryant and Bowman filming her on their phones as she was climbing out of the pool before she blacked out. Plaintiff messaged Bowman that she didn't know why anyone would want a video of her drunk and falling into his pool, and she told him, you do what you gotta do, and she remained in the lawsuit. Several days after Bowman contacted her, Osborne randomly texted plaintiff to ask how she was doing, even though she had not heard from him in several months. Plaintiff took this to mean that Bryant instructed Osborne to contact her to persuade her to drop out of the lawsuit because on information and belief, Bryant, Bowman, and Osborne were on a ski trip together at the time. Plaintiff had no reason to believe at that time Bryant, Bowman, and Osborne sexually assaulted her while she was unconscious and had video of the assault along with photographs of her private parts. The judge conditionally certified a class and granted summary judgment in favor of the plaintiffs against the company and Moffett in the wage case. Brian asked the court to dismiss him from the wage lawsuit to avoid individual liability. I'm going on down to page 13, midsection under Congresswoman Mace, line 90. In May of 2022, Bryant got engaged to Mace. On October 30th, 2023, a blogger contacted Mace and told her that Bryant was on a dating website called The League. At first, Mace didn't believe it, but a total of 3 women came forward reporting seeing Bryant's dating profile. Mace confronted Bryant about infidelity and asked him to go to counseling with 2 of her pastors. Bryant agreed. The pastors told Bryant that he needed to build trust, and to do that, he would need to give Mace access to his phone. On November 5th, 2023, Bryant allowed Mace to access his phone with her thumbprint. That evening, while Bryant was sleeping, Mace checked his phone. What she found on his phone was worse than anything she could have imagined. In addition to finding the video of plaintiff being sexually assaulted while she was unconscious, she found images, photos, and videos of other women's private parts that appeared to be taken without their knowledge. On December 14, 2023, Mace met with the FBI and the United States Attorney's Office, and she reported that what she found on Bryant's phone. They requested that the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division investigate the matter. As of the filing of this complaint, SLED is still investigating this matter, and no charges have been filed in connection with Mace's report. Mace was haunted by the video of the young woman who was sexually assaulted while unconscious. She was unsure of the woman's identity. However, she recognized the home in the video as Bowman's because she'd been there on prior occasions with Bryant. Initially, Mace thought the woman in the video might be Jane Doe Witness. In January 2024, she contacted Jane Doe Witness to inform her about the video she had found on Bryant's phone. Jane Doe Witness told her she was not the woman in the video, but she remembered what happened that night. Although she was still scared of Bowman, Jane Doe Witness had no longer lived with Bowman, so she felt safer discussing with Mace what she'd seen on the cameras that night. She told Mace that she had a diary entry and screenshots she had taken from her phone. Mace told her she needed to report what she saw to SLED and give them the email and screenshots. Jane Doe Witness later met with SLED investigators. Mace, still haunted by the video, wanted to find the young woman. Jane Doe Witness knew her first name but was unsure of her last name. The 2 women worked together to find her. Jane Doe Witness found plaintiff's last name on social media a few weeks later. Mace contacted someone she thought might know plaintiff and asked if he would reach out to plaintiff and ask her if she would be willing to talk to Mace about Bryant. He agreed. He called the plaintiff and asked if she would speak with Congresswoman Mace. He told her that Mace had called off her engagement with Bryant and wanted to speak with her about Bryant. Plaintiff told him she wasn't sure what information she could possibly provide, but she was willing to talk with Mace. Mace called plaintiff on April 6, 2024. Mace asked plaintiff what she remembered about the night she was at Bowman's house. Plaintiff thought it odd that Mace was asking her about that night. She told Mace she was very intoxicated and blacked out. She said she remembered going to Bowman's house with Brian and falling in the pool, but she didn't remember much after that. Mace told her that she found a video on Brian's phone of her being sexually assaulted by Osborne while she was unconscious. Mace also told plaintiff about the Stop Foyers Act 2024 at the time and that she was working to prevent what happened to her from happening to other women. Plaintiff felt her stomach drop and her body felt numb. She was in disbelief. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. She started panicking. She couldn't process what Mace told her. Plaintiff experienced immediate shock and psychological trauma. She had no prior knowledge of the assault or that such a video existed. The revelation was devastating. Plaintiff felt disoriented, violated, and betrayed. The emotional impact was acute, including nausea, confusion, disassociation, and overwhelming fear. The knowledge that someone she dated did this to her and that trusted professional and interpersonal acquaintances planned and reported this act compounded her trauma. Plaintiff did not discover what the defendants did to her until Mace told her on April 6, 2024. Plaintiff did not know or have reason to know that she had the legal claims outlined in this complaint until April 2024 because she was unconscious when the defendants violated her. Plaintiff texted Mace the following day and asked Mace if Mace would talk to her again, as she could not process what Mace had told her the day before. She and Mace spoke again the next day. Plaintiff asked Mace several questions. During the call, plaintiff became hysterical. In the months that followed, the plaintiff met with SLED investigators. Mace called her frequently to check in and see how she was doing. Plaintiff told Mace she was struggling emotionally and that she struggled to cope with what the defendants did to her. Although she's not certain, plaintiff believes it was likely the defendants drugged her because she has no memory after a certain point. Also, how else could the defendants be certain she wouldn't wake up during the assault? Moreover, after the assault, the defendants were confident that plaintiff had no memory of what they did to her, which seems unlikely unless they knew she was drugged. In February, Mace informed plaintiff about a speech she planned to give in support of the legislation. A few hours before Mace's speech, Osborne left plaintiff a message on LinkedIn asking her if she knew what was happening in Washington that night. Plaintiff's blood went cold when she saw the message. She never responded. Upon information and belief, Osborne sent a similar message to Jane Doe witness. On April 28, 2025, one of Bryant's lawyers sent a 5-page letter to the plaintiff, the individual who had reached out to the plaintiff on Mace's behalf, Jane Doe witness, Mace, and 2 former co-workers threatening to sue. Then on May 7, 2025, Bryant carried out this threat by filing a lawsuit against plaintiff for breach of contract on behalf of the company that committed wage, claiming that plaintiff violated the settlement agreement in the wage lawsuit by making disparaging comments about Bryant, even though the court granted his motion to be dismissed from that action. Bryant asked the court to grant him a restraining order precluding plaintiff from making disparaging remarks about him, notwithstanding that the agreement does not preclude plaintiff from making truthful statements, and the settlement agreement only pertained to the wage claims. Moreover, the settlement agreement was never intended to shield Bryant from committing sexual battery or from taking photos of plaintiff's private parts without her knowledge or consent. Bryant is using his vast financial resources to intimidate the plaintiff and discourage her from testifying against him in both criminal and civil proceedings, and is using the legal system for an improper purpose by filing a breach of contract lawsuit against the plaintiff. Bowman has attempted to silence plaintiff by defaming her and publicly shaming and humiliating her. Bowman published her first and last name on X under his username Not Eric B. He referred to plaintiff as a drunk and insinuated she's lying, promiscuous, and has a psychological disorder. Bowman has maliciously shamed and embarrassed the plaintiff and destroyed her reputation. Bowman has posted a 4-second video on X that he took of plaintiff soaking wet climbing out of his pool. Bowman also provided the video to the Daily Mail, who published the video with the plaintiff's face blurred. Bowman provided the Daily Mail with the plaintiff's full name and cell phone number, along with several photographs of the plaintiff and videos of the plaintiff climbing out of the pool to harass, shame, and intimidate plaintiff. Bowman and Bryant's actions violate South Carolina Code Annotated 16-3-730, which makes it a misdemeanor to publish or cause to be published the name of an alleged victim of criminal sexual assault. While the Daily Mail did not publish plaintiff's name, they did publish pictures of plaintiff that blurred her face and published Bowman's statements in an article. This goes on about Bowman and social media and the posts. The bottom of page 18134, Bryant and Bowman were acting with malicious intent by providing the Daily Mail with close-up photographs of plaintiff climbing out of the pool to publicly humiliate, shame, and intimidate her. Bowman and Bryant sent the video and pictures of plaintiff to the Daily Mail to embarrass and discredit her. Ever since Bowman revealed the plaintiff's identity on X, she's received calls and texts from reporters at CNN, the Daily Mail, asking her to comment on the allegations. These calls have disrupted her life, caused her anxiety, and plaintiff is afraid to answer her phone and is scared reporters will show up at her home or place of work. As a result of what the defendants did to her, plaintiff has experienced severe emotional distress. She suffers from panic attacks, crying spells, and anger outbursts. Plaintiff had to take time off of work to prioritize her mental health and seek therapeutic support. The emotional fallout has been ongoing, impacting both her personal and professional life. Plaintiff becomes frightened and anxious every time she sees a man holding a cell phone picture. Plaintiff has nightmares and frequently wakes up screaming. On various occasions, friends have told plaintiff they heard her scream in her sleep. On a work trip, a co-worker in a hotel room across the hall texted her to see if she was okay after hearing her screams through the hallway. Plaintiff frequently experiences hypervigilance in both public and private spaces, scanning for hidden cameras or men with their phones out. She finds herself scanning for hidden cameras or recording devices everywhere she goes. She struggles to interact with males at her job. Plaintiff could not finish her thesis to graduate school and had to ask for an extension and is in counseling. Defendant's actions against plaintiff were willful, wanton, and done in reckless disregard of her rights. The defendant's conscious failure to exercise due care constitutes willfulness. Therefore, plaintiff is entitled to punitive damages. And then the motion, the complaint goes into the causes of action, which you can download. There is also a motion that was filed today by her attorney. It was a plaintiff's motion to proceed under a pseudonym, and you can get that online as well. There were two things. On page 1, I wanted you to notice. And here it says the plaintiff, through her undersigned counsel, respectfully moves this court for an order granting her to proceed under a pseudonym, and the lawsuit filed contemporaneously with this motion for the reason set forth below, and there are several factual allegations in here. Plaintiff Jane Doe is an alleged sexual assault victim in a case that has garnered national attention since Congresswoman Nancy Mace gave a speech on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives stating that she found a video of on her then-fiancé Patrick Bryant's cell phone of a young woman being sexually assaulted while she was unconscious. Plaintiff is one of the women that Mace is referring to in her speech. On page 7 of the same motion, I wanted to bring special attention to where the attorney writes in her motion that Bryant is using the court system to conduct a fishing expedition into witnesses' private lives. It appears Bryant created the company GLT2 LLC, which is registered with the South Carolina Secretary of State, February 20th, 2025, 10 days after my speech. For this purpose, this company has clear ties to Bryant because the registered agent for GLT2 LLC is the accountant for Assignment Desk Works LLC, which is the company that has filed the breach of contract lawsuit against the plaintiff. Additionally, the law firm representing GLT2 LLC also represents Bryant in several matters. On February 21, 2025, GLT2 LLC filed a petition in Charleston County Court of Common Pleas to authorize depositions and discovery before filing a legal action. The petition names GLT2 LLC as the plaintiff and Jane and John Doe as defendants. In GLT2 LLC's court filing, the company provided no information about any potential claims it may have against Jane and John Doe. GLT2 LLC then deposed Wesley Donahue, who was a longtime friend of Bryant's and a former political consultant for Congresswoman Mace. GLT2 LLC began conducting depositions despite the court not having yet heard its petition, nor has the court filed an order authorizing them to conduct depositions. The matter is scheduled to be heard on June 4th, 2025. During the deposition, Donahue made numerous disparaging comments about Mace, both personally and professionally. GLT2 LLC then provided the transcript of Donahue's deposition to the media, which was published by Fitz News on May 21st, 2025. Clearly, Fitz received this from GLT2 LLC as they are the only named party in this matter. The court should grant this motion to protect plaintiff because it appears Bryant is creating companies to exploit the legal system for an improper purpose, namely to conduct depositions in a case that has not been filed and release them to the media to publicly embarrass, discredit, intimidate, and or discourage witnesses from testifying in any civil or criminal proceeding against him. Plaintiff is also fearful of her personal safety. Although she resides in another state, the defendants are wealthy and possess substantial financial resources. Bowman has a history of engaging in violent behavior. He was arrested on April 8, 2025 and charged with harassing Jane Doe witness, who was a witness in this case. Bowman also was charged with assaulting a man with his golf cart in 2018. The man was severely injured, and a jury ordered Bowman to pay $1.8 million in actual damages and $2.7 million in punitive damages. Regarding the third factor, which involves the age of the person whose privacy interests are sought to be protected, the plaintiff was 23 years old at the time of this occurrence. Since the assault, she's enrolled in graduate school and hopes to have a successful career in her chosen field. Publicly identifying her would have long-term implications for her career prospects, given that she's only at the beginning of her career and is not established in her field. These can be downloaded online. Right now, if you haven't already, my staff is releasing my statement, which I'm going to read for you today. Today, a brave survivor of rape and sexual exploitation filed a civil class action lawsuit against three men mentioned in Congresswoman Nancy Mace's February 10th floor speech: Eric Bowman, Patrick Bryant, and John Osborne. According to Congresswoman Mace, the victim, after being incapacitated, was sexually assaulted, and the assault was filmed. The video was saved and stored for more than 5 years after. All of this happened without the victim's knowledge. The lawsuit seeks to hold the perpetrators accountable for the premeditated and deeply traumatizing assault. Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who originally uncovered video evidence of the assault, issued the following statement: "This young woman didn't know she was raped because she was unconscious when it happened. I told her the truth after finding the footage. It was one of the hardest conversations of my life. Her strength in coming forward is immeasurable, and I will stand with her under oath every step of the way." According to Congressman Mace, the victim was raped at a property owned by Eric Bowman on Sullivan's Island. Patrick Bryan and Eric Bowman sat by with their phones out while John Osborne carried out the assault. As revealed by Congresswoman Nancy Mace on her floor speech on February 10, 2025, this assault was premeditated and orchestrated while children were in the home. Mace accidentally uncovered the footage in November 2023. What she discovered was staggering. Video of the assault, photos of the victim, and corroborating metadata. She would eventually identify the victim and inform her of the assault. Mace turned over what she uncovered to law enforcement. And quoting, again, this isn't just about one woman. This is about predators who have operated with impunity for far too long. The lawsuit filed today is only the start, only the first step towards justice for her and others. It's proof predators can be exposed, that truth matters, that survivors have power, and that justice isn't optional, it's long overdue. When the system fails to protect victims, it's not just broken, it's complicit. Every woman harmed by predators deserves justice, and if our solicitor and our attorney general won't fight for them, I will. To other potential victims of these predators today, I have a message for you. I want other potential victims to know that I have your back. I outline in my statement about a dozen bills I've worked on. I started with the Sue Voyeurs Act and the Stop Voyeurs Act as soon as I uncovered this footage. I thought it was unreal that women, in the Violence Against Women Act, there really were no protections for women who were victims of voyeurism. There was no criminal act under Title 18 of the Federal Code of Laws. Voyeurism is only illegal under Title 18 if you're in certain maritime jurisdictions or tribal lands. Think cruises or tribal lands. There is no it's not under, it wasn't a violation, I found out, under federal law to film women in this way. And so I created a bill, the Stop Voyeurs Act, that would expand the very narrow criminal prohibition against video voyeurism at the federal level. I also filed another voyeurism-related bill called the Sue Voyeurs Act. VAWA created a civil tort or civil right of action for revenge porn. It did not create a civil right of action or civil tort for voyeurism, so that bill does that. I have lots of different, several different bills regarding rape, regarding deep fakes. I have a bill I just recently refiled that would not allow rapists to sue rape victims. That's what's happening in this case. The justice system, predators in this particular case are using the justice system to harm victims and to harm witnesses. And so with that, Sydney will pass out the statement, and you can download this motion and the complaint. It was just filed in the last hour or two. Thank you. I'm not going to take any questions.
All right, so some interesting comments there by Representative Mace. Clearly, this is just the beginning of this litigation, this lawsuit, obviously, with Jane Doe. We'll have to see where this goes. And, of course, just being a state away, we'll continue to stay on top of it here on WCNC Plus and on WCNC. We do want to go to an interesting situation in Louisiana where there is a reward out raised now to $50,000 for the capture of the New Orleans jail escapees. This happened a couple of weeks ago. There was numerous individuals from the jail that escaped the New Orleans jail. You could see them from even video scrambling out of the jail, running across a highway in New Orleans even, and they have received or brought back some of these individuals, some of these suspects that they have. But authorities have increased that reward, as I said, to $50,000, a combined total of $50,000, as there are 2 remaining people, escapees, that they are looking for at this time. So we'll listen into this. Sounds like there's a task force in relation to this situation as they're trying to look for these individuals.
Thank y'all so much for being with us today. We have a very important announcement, I believe, that may assist in the apprehension of the 2 last remaining at-large inmates. I do want to say a great thank you to the partnering agencies that have worked endlessly to make this arrest happen of the first 8. And we have with us today, of course, State Police, ATF, U.S. Marshals, FBI, LSP, of course, and Homeland Security, and NOPD. So as Crime Stoppers, we have been, an active participant in gathering information for many years in the New Orleans area and in the surrounding parishes, actually for about 45 years. And this is a job that we take very seriously, and we also understand the sensitivity when someone reports someone that they know personally with regards to a crime. And since the escape, Crime Stoppers has fielded close to 700 tips with regards to the information on the 10 inmates. We actually, at the peak of this, had to add 4 additional lines to accommodate the calls to the call center, the Crime Stoppers call center. And I want you to know that we vetted every single tip, prioritized them for the delivery to our lead agency, Louisiana State Police, and the other agency partners that stand with us. We know that we have been told tips assisted in 3 arrests of inmates. In the first tip that came in that led to an arrest, actually the team, the incredible work by this team, that arrest came within 30 minutes of the tip. I can tell you that 3 tipsters will be paid rewards. And again, it's by the work that's been confirmed from the information the community provides to, from law enforcement. I can't thank enough the LSP Fusion Center, the individuals who we work with, the call takers, who we passed every single tip by. I also can't thank enough my staff and our call center for keeping, staying the course. We know that tips from the public plays an incredible role, and we also appreciate that we have the trust coming to Crime Stoppers for those tips. But our work is not done. With 2 remaining inmates, our board, our organization, wanted to stand firm and encourage anyone who might have intimate knowledge of the whereabouts of Mr. Massey or Mr. Groves not to wait, but to contact us immediately. To kind of put a little meat behind that, we wanted to let you know that Crime Stoppers today has increased its reward for information that leads directly to the arrest of each of these individuals, up to $20,000. Now with Crime Stoppers, we are combining with the ATF, making the reward significantly higher. And you're eligible for the Crime Stoppers reward by contacting us directly. With Crime Stoppers, you're going to remain anonymous. It's our standard protocols. And we truly hope that with this increased amount, if you have personal knowledge of the whereabouts of these individuals that can help law enforcement make that arrest, to contact us. And again, we can't say it enough, with Crime Stoppers, you will remain anonymous. Now I'd like to have the ATF speak up.
All right, thank you. Hey, good morning. My name is Joshua Jackson. I am the Special Agent in charge for the ATF New Orleans Field Division. As New Orleans has heard me said in other communities in Louisiana, ATF's priority mission is to prevent, reduce, and solve violent crime. In this particular response, this is preventing additional violent crime from happening to our citizens in our community. The 10 escapees definitely had violent criminal histories, and they definitely were it had a lot of impact on public safety within the communities that we serve. I want to pull the curtain back a little bit and kind of give some acknowledgments and some thank yous to our partners. First, LSP, leading this investigation. Colonel Hodges has been instrumental in coordinating efforts and keeping all of the federal partners and local partners engaged and aware and appraised of what's going on. This investigation has stretched beyond the borders of Louisiana. Also want to give a lot of acknowledgement to our federal partners, and that's FBI, United States Marshal Service, and HSI. HSI, NOPD, and ATF, we have a task force that works in the city. You guys might recall when we did a press conference speaking about the crime drop, the violent crime decreases within the city of New Orleans, and we talked about this task force. This task force is led by New Orleans Police Department Special Operations Division Tactical Team 2, ATF, and Homeland Security Investigations. This team has been instrumental in this response. This task force is the one that comes out, and they do investigate violent crime in all capacities, to include this fugitive apprehension. They've been instrumental in conducting search warrants, interviews that have directly led to the arrest and capture of some of these escapees. The last acknowledgement and thank you I want to give to the public and the community at large. You guys have been instrumental in providing tips and working with us to help keep you safe. We're not at the finish line. We still have 2 more to go that we need to capture and bring back and put back in custody, as they do pose a risk to public safety to all of us in the community. I also want to reiterate to firearm owners, we want to make sure that this is already a dangerous situation. We want to make sure that firearms are secured in your vehicles. We don't want any handguns, rifles that are unsecured coming into the hands of these two individuals who are still outstanding. Also be vigilant in your home. Make sure your firearms are secured throughout the area until we get these two individuals back into custody. So thank you to New Orleans and the greater Louisiana area for your assistance and your help with this investigation. I'm going to turn it over to Chief of the United States Marshals. Mr. Chairman.
Sorry about that. Good morning. I'm Walter Martin. I'm the Chief Deputy with the U.S. Marshals here in New Orleans. I want to start by thanking several groups. I first want to thank Darlene and Crime Stoppers, GNO, for not only increasing the reward, but for also her partnership and everything that they've done behind the scenes to assist not only the U.S. Marshals, but my law enforcement partners that are standing here. And their support with the community has been phenomenal. I would also like to thank the men and women you see standing here with me today, but more importantly, the men and women that are behind the scenes working hard every day. Ever since the escape occurred, they have been tirelessly working, dedicating their time and giving up, sacrificing their personal and professional time to work on finding these escapees. I also want to thank the public for their support, not only of law enforcement, but for providing the tips and the information that is needed to find the escapees. More importantly, I would like to echo what Colonel Hodges has been telling you guys from the start, as well as what our leaders have been saying, that we need the community support. Continue to provide the tips, send them to Crime Stoppers, send them to the ATF, to the FBI, to the Marshal Service. We are vetting those tips, and we're using that information to catch the individuals. As you have seen thus far, we've captured 8 of them, and we plan on catching the remaining 2. If you know something, say something. Please contact Crime Stoppers, ATF, the Marshal Service, FBI, and thank you for your support. Now I'd like to introduce FBI Special Agent in Charge, Jonathan Tapp. Thank you.
Good morning, folks. Thank you, Chief. I'm Jonathan Tapp, Special Agent in Charge of the FBI here in New Orleans. Today marks day 13 in our search for escapees Antoine Massey and Derek Groves, and we want you to know that we will find them. The FBI remains committed to supporting our law enforcement partners to recapture these dangerous inmates. The FBI has utilized every resource at our disposal to locate and apprehend the remaining 2 fugitives. Agents and analysts have been working every day to ensure that credible leads are pursued with urgency. And that's not just here in New Orleans, but across the country. What we need from you, the public, is to continue to give us leads. If you think you've seen either of these men or have any information, call 911, call Crime Stoppers, call 1-800-CALL-FBI. You can submit a tip at fbi.gov/New Orleans fugitives, but please report any information. We're also announcing that we, the FBI, are increasing our potential reward per inmate, Massey and Groves, from $10,000 to $20,000 with our partners. We want you to know the FBI handles every lead with discretion, and we do our utmost to preserve anonymity. But sometimes this is difficult. We understand with our law enforcement partners that some of you might be reporting a friend, a loved one, a relative, and albeit not easy, it is critical to your safety and the safety of the public that you report that. Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Colonel Hodges.
Thank you, SAC Tapp. Good morning, everyone. 2 weeks in, and our mission remains unchanged. In locating and apprehending the remaining fugitives is our top priority. You see them on the monitor to your left, my right, and it shows 8 captured and 2 remaining. Over the past 2 weeks, strong collaboration with our Crime Stoppers, Darlene and her team, local, state, and our federal partners that you see to my left and right and behind me, have been with them, we've taken 8 of the 10 safely back into custody and transported them to a secure state facility in Louisiana. Additionally, multiple individuals who aided these fugitives after their escape have been arrested. I want to be clear. Anyone who chooses to help the remaining fugitives in any way will be arrested and prosecuted. The decision is simple: assist law enforcement and potentially earn a reward, or try to assist these fugitives and go to jail with a potentially high bond. As SAC TAP said, we know their family members, their friends, but they are a public safety risk for you, everyone around you, and the entire state of Louisiana. You must do the right thing. With Crime Stoppers increasing the reward amount, now is the time to make the right choice. Turn in valuable information and help us bring them in safely and receive a reward. All contact information is available on our websites, our social media platforms, and can be shared again following this conference. This remains an evolving investigation. Things change. I want to thank our Texas DPS troopers who helped us Monday. I also want to thank our Baton Rouge City Police here in Louisiana who helped us also capture a fugitive on Monday as well. We'll continue to share updates with the public as more information becomes available. Please follow our social media pages and for the latest developments on what we have. Once again, this is a team effort. It takes all of us. That's why you have the New Orleans Police Department, you have the FBI, Homeland Security Investigations, ATF, the U.S. Marshals, and even those who are not with us up here right now, our state probation and parole, our sheriffs in the neighboring parishes, and many other agencies, Harbor Police, our Orleans and Jefferson Levee District. All of those agencies are instrumental in working this operation around the clock. So please know that the public, once again, that we are working for you. It's for all of Louisiana, and as mentioned, sometimes these dangerous fugitives travel outside our borders. So we need everyone's help. If you're listening and you're in another state and you have a tip or another parish or another city, please contact us. This concludes our conference, and we'll take any questions.
When this manhunt started, we heard a lot about law enforcement, about being pretty confident that inmates were still in the metro area. We now know, 2 arrests in Texas, 1 in Baton Rouge. So kind of, do you guys have any idea geographically about where Derek Groth and Antoine Massey are today?
So once again, we have some strong leads, but these remaining 2 fugitives, they have help, and therefore they move. And sometimes they move outside New Orleans, outside Louisiana, because they have help. And at this time, we're confident that we're closing in on the remaining 2 escapees, and that we should have them in custody soon. But law enforcement is patient, but more importantly, we're resilient. And although they're going to get tired and frustrated as they try to move around Louisiana or move around the metropolitan area, they know the walls are closing in, and very soon we'll have them in custody.
So you do think they're in the Louisiana metro area?
We're confident that we have strong investigative leads as to their whereabouts. But we still need the public's help, because as soon as we get one lead, then they relocate to another place, whether that's a home or business or a public area, and the information is only as good as the public continuing to call Crime Stoppers, ATF, FBI, the State Police Fusion Center, the Marshal Service, HSI, NOPD, all the agencies here. You think it may be something incredibly small, or you may be not certain, just make the call. Let us vet it. Let our team of professionals investigate it, and then it can ultimately confirm what we already know, or maybe new information that provides a different location if, in fact, they left from where we think they are right now.
Hi, Katie Boyce from CBS News. It's something that's come up from our viewers around the country is concerns about, you mentioned loved ones, relatives calling in, making a tough call to provide tips. But some people are concerned, are family members conspiring with these fugitives to receive money, and everyone benefits from the escape? And the second question is, you mentioned 3 tipsters so far have been paper boards. How much has each person received?
So I don't have those exact amounts because there's different agencies involved, but I think I'll let Ms. Costanza speak on the Crime Stoppers portion.
Okay. So for the Crime Stoppers portion, the available funds was $10,000, plus the ATF fund was included with that. And that's strictly on 3 different cases. And as far as rewards that's been paid, we've only paid 1 reward to date. The others will be paid shortly.
And as far as the
Yes.
alleged, conspiracies, concerns about family members benefiting financially from this escape?
Well, I think the bigger concern, and I'm not trying to answer your question, is public safety. If you're concerned about your loved one, I can't imagine what it feels like to have to call the police and say, my son is here, my brother is here, my cousin is here, but they are a risk and have proven that they're a risk because they were already incarcerated for charges, violent charges, and now they're escaped. And they have an opportunity to come to court and to, again, well, some of them just need to be relocated, and the census have already been done with the remaining 2. But with that being said, I think the public safety is the bigger concern, because once you leave outside of your home, you're around everyone else. And I think it would be unthinkable if these 2 individuals hurt someone else and you knew about it, you would feel really bad. So with regard to the money aspect of it, I just think it's the right thing to do, and if you receive a reward, that's outstanding. That's why we appreciate the partnership with Crime Stoppers. But it must lead to an arrest, and we just encourage people to continue calling. Yes, sir.
At the peak of this, 700 tips were coming in. Were tips starting to dwindle? Is that part of the reason why the increase in the reward for information leading to an arrest?
I would say that any time that more days pass by, the fugitives can have other opportunities because there's more people that can help them. And with regard to obviously the conference was to let them know that there's an increased amount because we know the importance of bringing these last 2 back into custody and the public safety risk. I don't think that the tips have decreased. We hope with these new reward amounts that they increase even more than what we've had. However, they move and they change. So the information that you call and provide is only good for a short amount of time. And therefore, we need additional leads and additional calls and tips to help the public. So I believe that we will get more tips, and that's, I believe, part of the plan. We appreciate our business community and those who are part of our Crime Stoppers board, Norman, who's here representing with Darlene as well, and our community that comes together as a whole, realizing it's everyone's safety's at risk here and not just one particular city.
And if I may, a quick follow-up. I know in the case of Mr. Van Buren, who was captured in Baton Rouge PD said that he appeared to have changed his appearance, his hairstyle. Are you all concerned that any of the remaining fugitives have changed their appearance?
Well, I mean, certainly, again, as more time passes, things change. People could change their appearance. We believe that we have good information, whether they change their appearance or not, but that's common amongst most fugitives. Obviously, they're going to change clothes. They may change facial hair, may change their hair on their head and things like that to put a ball cap on, different clothes and things like that. But we understand Baton Rouge was, and I just want to thank them again, Chief T.J. Morse and his officers for helping us, as well as Texas DPS and Colonel Freeman Martin, who provided 2 in Texas and 1 here. And yes, they sometimes change appearances. Y'all saw in the photographs. And I think they could change appearance again. So I think the public, if you just look at the photographs to your left up on that board and look very closely, probably not changing their eyes and their nose and their smile. So I would just focus on those things. And we're confident that family members and friends have seen them, know where they are, and could really reach out to us based on that and not be easily how you want to say, distracted by changing hair on the head or face. Okay?
The Orleans Justice Center, it's only a decade old. Obviously, there were some serious structural failings with the escape itself. There have also been a number of problems since the escape actually happened. I know the Sheriff's Office isn't here today, but can any of y'all speak to why a decade-old state-of-the-art facility is in such shambles?
So our focus today on this conference is obviously to make the public aware that the reward has increased, and the reward is directly related to the apprehension of the remaining 2 fugitives and escapees to bring them back in custody. We're not going to comment on the jail or any conditions prior to. We're just looking forward. We have 8 captured. We have 2 more remaining, and that's what we need the public's help with. There'll be a time later that you'll be able to ask those questions, but this conference is specifically geared to those 2 fugitives who remain at large.
Ms. Darlene, can you just reiterate and walk us through, for people that want to bring in tips, they see the inmates, what's the next step, and have tips help with those that were aiding and abetting, like finding out who was actually part of the fugitives escaping?
So I'll say that we've gotten tips on all different things. So we've gotten tips on certainly on the fugitives, where they may be, who they may be with. Certainly certain tips have helped and assisted law enforcement to make the apprehensions of 3 of the individuals. As far as the other individuals who are aiding and abetting, yes, we've gotten information from those folks. What we're telling you is that you need to go ahead and make sure that you contact us. You receive a tip number when you call Crime Stoppers. You're able to update your information, and believe me, many of these tipsters are. Send us the update. Send us what you're seeing on social media. All of that is, again, combined and vetted by law enforcement as they build, as they work the puzzle of this. But at the end of this, we will hope that one person, at least one tipster's information, will lead to that arrest. And with regards to the volume of tips, when we first started out, remember, we had 10 folks that we were looking for, then down to 8. Certainly that volume was affected by the number of individuals who were out there. We look at every individual as a case. So we're now down to 2. And I 100% agree with the Colonel that we're going to see an increase with this huge reward of people sending information. We want you to be part of the team. That's why we're standing here asking you to be part of the team and part of the solution. Thank you.
So can you say which 3 have been apprehended? Like, thanks to tips?
We're not going to stay.
Yeah, we're not going to discuss that. Just know 8 are in custody at a secure facility here in the state, and then we have 2 remaining. But we just want to focus on those 2. If your question pertains to the rewards, will be allocated accordingly once they go through the protocols. Crime Stoppers has been in business for almost 50 years. They're very successful for a reason, because they pay on the rewards, which match an arrest, and they do it anonymously. So I think the public can feel confident that if the information that you provide does in fact lead to an arrest and a conviction, it will be in good position to provide our partners here, FBI, ATF, and Crime Stoppers will provide those rewards. Make no mistake, they've been around a long time because they're resourceful, they're helpful, they're part of the community, and ultimately they pay those rewards.
So what is the total reward amount now with both of these increases?
It's $50,000 per remaining fugitive with our partners here, a combination of Crime Stoppers, ATF, and the FBI.
Anyone over here, Fox?
You go first.
My question is there's more than a dozen that have helped these inmates escape or after their escape. So have the people that you guys have talked to, has that started helping in this search for the last 2?
Well, I think it sends a message that if you assist or you help those who remain fugitives, that you will be charged and prosecuted. And I go back on what I said earlier, make the right decision, contact law enforcement or Crime Stoppers and our partners up here, and give us the information that we need to bring them to justice. The longer, if you help and you assist, you're just putting all of public safety at risk by doing that. And that we ask again the public to please contact us with the information.
All right, I have a question. As far as timing goes, we're heading into week 2 of this investigation. Does time help the remaining inmates, or does it help the law enforcement in terms of, it seems like they're just running around in circles at this point as you guys are picking up leads, but if we head into week 3, does it make it more difficult for the law enforcement, or does it make it more difficult for the remaining inmates?
I think it makes it more difficult for the escapees because they're tired, they're looking over their shoulder, they're running out of resources, and with the increase in the reward amount today, we're going to get more tips, which means we're going to close in faster, and therefore, I think the advantage goes to law enforcement, and we need the public's help.
So a lot more work to be done. Obviously, police work to get these 2 individuals back to the New Orleans jail. This has been just really a wild goose chase at certain points. Certain individuals seen on certain surveillance cameras around New Orleans. Some of them have changed what they look like, obviously what they're wearing. So it has been a chase. catch me if you can, if you will, for the police in this sense. So I'm sure that they will get their guys. We'll update the situation. Let's bring things back more local here to our area. We're heading into the 8 o'clock hour, and we have been setting some time aside to do the Charlotte Sounds section of our WCNC Plus Impact News. We do it on Thursdays with Nathaniel Puente. So Nathaniel, bring him in. Nathaniel's got awesome hair. He's an awesome dude. You have an eclectic background in music that we love to kind of talk about, and that's what Charlotte Sounds is for, Nathan. So let's talk about the first up. We've got a couple of things. First, though, we were talking behind the scenes about Smash Mouth. I know you saw them. I just want to get this out of my system because, like I said, it's a nostalgia thing for me. It was the soundtrack to my life as a preteen. I think everybody knows the song All-Star, right? So many other songs, Walking on the Sun. You got to see these guys. They played at the Coke 600, right? This past weekend. How was it?
Yeah, it was such awesome. I feel like this segment is slowly turning into just concerts I go to throughout the week.
Nothing wrong with that, right?
But it was a lot of fun. You know, they played there the night before the Coca-Cola 600 there at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It was a free show. So I'm unfortunate that I didn't know you were such a fan. I should have let you know.
It's okay.
You could have stopped by and heard some of those cool songs.
Next time.
Yeah, but it was a very neat show. You know, they kept shouting out, hey, is anyone here actually born before 1997 or actually born in 1997? I was born in 1997, so I felt like I can raise my hand to this, I guess.
Was there a lot of people there?
There were quite a bit of people there.
Okay.
The show was right after the NASCAR Xfinity Series race.
Okay.
So there were still people kind of meandering out toward their cars and maybe stopped by and saw the show.
Yeah.
But they teased it pretty well. It was out there right in front of the track. So that was really cool to get to see that. The whole time, though, they were teasing, of course, to Shrek and how...
I saw the dragon in behind them.
And how much of a legacy that both that movie has become and the band became because of that movie and their inclusion. So really neat that, obviously, when Shrek, the movie starts, it starts with the song All-Star.
Yeah.
They also have another song in that movie called I'm a Believer.
Yes.
Which is a cover of the Monkees song.
Yeah.
But yeah, so really, really cool to get to see that. Obviously, everyone around my age and older and younger, you know, everyone loves Shrek. I mean, come on.
Right.
That movie raised us.
Yes.
From the memes to the just
donkey
sort of crazy culture that kind of came out of Shrek. So really awesome to be able to watch Smash Mouth and watch them perform those songs and also their other songs as well. So really neat to see that. And it was a free show. So getting to go out there and shoot photos was really a wonderful experience.
Yeah, I've written so many lyrics for people in my preteens to replace some of the lyrics they've written to try and, you know, be cool back in the day or a farm, as they say nowadays. So it's so cool to think about the fact that they did have a huge role in Shrek. And you're right. Also, I mean, my 8-year-old son, he just loves that song, and I'm sure a lot of folks do. So that must have been cool. I imagine people were singing along to some of the lyrics as well. Did they play some of the big hits as well?
Yeah. I mean, All-Star, I'm a Believer, Walking on the Sun, they hit all those.
Okay.
A lot of songs I wasn't super familiar with, but what I was really surprised with, because, I mean, in my eyes, as someone who's not the hugest, like, ska reggae fan of what this music was back in the late 90s, I thought really they were kind of just a one-hit wonder, two-hit wonder, three-hit wonder. But people in the crowd there at Charlotte Motor Speedway, once again, was a free show. Anyone could just show up. People were singing along to almost every song they performed. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah.
I know you're saying you were a big fan, and Astor Lounge was like one of your anthems back in the day.
Yes.
Did you have a favorite song from that album?
I would say probably All Star. There's another one that's I mean, Walking on the Sun was something a little bit later, but then there's another song that comes to my mind, and I said it earlier, and I'll have to find it again. But Then the Morning Comes. That song for me really hit, and I think it wasn't necessarily emo, right? Because that wasn't necessarily, there was a genre like that, and maybe it alluded to that. Smash Mouth did. You'll have to tell me. But it really was cool because during that time I had kind of eclectic taste, and you heard Smash Mouth, Dave Matthews. I mean, NWA was playing at the time, right? Tupac. So I had all of these tastes of music, and honestly, I really gravitated towards Smash Mouth just because at the time the lyrics were a little bit better than some of the other things my parents wanted me to listen to. But really, like, some of the lyrics did feel like the things that I was going through, right? I mean, being misunderstood, or like All Star, right? Like, you weren't the sharpest tool in the shed, right? Like, I knew people like that. So, so maybe I won't name names, but you could apply it to your life, and that was really cool, right? And I think as you get older, it's harder to do that. But I think a lot of people in that crowd were probably thinking the same thing. So that's really cool. What are the things that you wanted to highlight? I mean, the acoustics, they seem like they haven't aged in years either. How did they play to the crowd? How did that look?
Yeah, it sounded great. I mean, obviously they're with a different singer now. Their original singer, Steve Harrell,
That's right.
died a couple of years ago, unfortunately.
Yes.
But the new singer that they have now, who actually joined the band before Steve Harrell died, they had kind of had some falling out a few years ago, but they had a new singer, and he sounded phenomenal. I mean, I thought if I didn't know it was a different singer when I went, I would have thought it was the original guy, because he sounded exactly like him.
Wild.
And even dressed like the part too, how you would expect someone singing for Smash Mouth to dress. So really, really cool.
It's wild how Hollywood does that, though, right? Finds individuals that maybe have that type of repertoire with their voice, but you can't duplicate it sometimes, and this guy did, so that's cool. Awesome. Anything else about Smash Mouth that we're missing? The people, I haven't necessarily checked out their tour dates, but that was a really cool thing to see, and I think kind of set the scene after the Xfinity race, right?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I think one thing I'll add, and, bands tend to play up to the crowd, always tell them, this is my favorite crowd, when you're there, so you feel like really involved with it. But while they were performing I'm a Believer, they did that thing where they let the crowd sing the whole chorus to the song, and after that little section of the song was done, the singer goes, that's the best we've ever heard that done by a crowd.
Wow.
So really neat that once again, I don't know if he says that to every single concert they go to, but really neat that Charlotte got a shout out that way.
Way to go, Charlotte. Of course, I'm sure they'll probably remember that. Maybe they'll come back to Charlotte to give us a reprise of their amazing performance. Let's talk about Metallica, man. Fade to Black, one of the songs that I love. We played it all the time in the locker room before football games. There's a ton of Metallica songs, honestly, on the pregame list. I'm sure for a lot of folks it's the same thing as well. But they are about to play it sounds like this weekend. And they had a blood drive ahead of the Charlotte show. So they're very involved in the community still. Obviously, these guys aren't necessarily where they were 20, 30 years ago, but they're still front and center on the stage, still singing those hits. What are you looking forward to singing these guys?
Oh, well, I mean, it's Metallica. They're
the essence of rock, right?
Yeah, they're the most iconic metal band to ever exist.
Pretty much.
Not necessarily my favorite band, but I can't sit here and tell you I don't love them. I mean, Metallica, that's your gateway band into liking rock and metal music. I mean, everybody wanted to play guitar like Kirk Hammett and James Hetfield. Everyone who picked up a bass wanted to be Cliff
thrashing.
Burton, right?
Yeah.
So I absolutely looking forward just to seeing Metallica, but really neat that they get out there in the community. They're having this volunteer opportunity at the Second Harvest of Metrolina, the food bank here in Charlotte. Just trying to give back to the community. They do this at every city they go to. Have volunteer opportunities. They're having a blood drive on Friday, tomorrow at Bank of America Stadium ahead of their performance. They're performing on Saturday at Bank of America Stadium. And really neat that they're at such a huge, enormous venue. We've had some of the biggest artists in the world are playing there. Shakira played there a couple weeks, maybe a month ago now.
Yeah.
Beyonce's played there, all these huge bands. So really neat that Metallica is seen on that same level as these major artists. So really looking forward to all of it.
Well, every time I think of South Carolina football, I think of Enter Sandman, right? Like, that's an iconic song. And it's not just there. I think Virginia Tech, the Hokies, they play it before their games as well. So I'd love to ask them, like, hey, I'm sure they know that their music's being used, right? Because they have to get paid for that. But it'd be cool to see if they've ever heard Williams-Brice light up with their song Enter Sandman before a Saturday game, because it is so cool how that place rocks with that song. And I'm hoping that maybe they'll sing that this weekend. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm sure that's a song they usually play in their encore performance, so that would be there. And I actually have an answer to your question about whether or not they've heard the Virginia Tech version. So I want to say it was a couple weeks ago. I'm not missing the date in my head at the moment, but they performed actually at the venue there in Virginia.
No way!
Because they knew that that's such a hype song, and the crowd and the music together created such an eruption.
Yeah.
I believe it actually registered some kind of
Richter scale.
on the Richter scale. Yeah,
What?
an earthquake. It was like one of the loudest
That's
noises
sick.
ever made. So,
That's sick.
Yeah.
That's like Death Valley type stuff because
Yeah.
they've been on the Richter scale too for how loud their games are. But that's awesome. Wow. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. I mean, the place just goes wild whenever Metallica comes on. So it's a song that you just can't miss, and really a group with voices that you can't not recognize, right? So they're playing this weekend, and tickets and stuff, I think they're on sale now. Anything that folks should know about Bank of America Stadium this weekend? It'll be on Friday. So again, we could have some showers out there. And their blood drive will happen from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. in connection with the American Red Cross. Are they playing at Bank of America Stadium that night too?
They're playing on Saturday.
Okay, on Saturday. Sorry.
So all the preview, all the festivities happen on Friday. And then they play on Saturday.
Okay.
So should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So heads up, folks, if you are headed out there Friday, obviously Brad will have more on the forecast on what to expect. We'll be watching for it. You can always download WCNC, our mobile app, to keep you up to date. So anything else with Metallica you want to let folks know about? Anything from them?
Sure. So, Metallica's great. And
Yeah.
You should check them out.
Okay.
If you haven't, if you've never heard of them, you've been living under a rock for 45 years, it's time to get out and check out some Metallica.
Yeah.
I'll be at the concert shooting photos once again.
Okay.
So we should have an article up on WCNC.com the next day, a review, and all the cool photos I hope to get from there.
Yeah. And I want to give it away, but I heard that you maybe have an interview with Styx apparently at some point.
Yeah, that's true. Don't want to tease too much, but next week we should have a pretty cool guest.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, a legend. That group is a legend as well. All right, we'll move on to our last little part of our segment, which I actually caught a glimpse of this because I saw this woman come in, and I knew she was with you in terms of getting this interview. So it's really cool to kind of learn her story. We have an 18-year-old, Julia Golden, who's a singer from North Carolina. She's got some small town roots. But she's got a great voice, and it sounds like she's headed or already there on her way to the big time, right? Talk a little bit about who she is. She sounds like she'll be performing at Charlotte's Love and Life Festival, so we'll go through that about where folks can support her. But where's she from?
She's from Carthage, North Carolina, which is near Pinehurst, which if you know about golf, you know where Pinehurst is.
Yep.
So out there in eastern North Carolina. She came down here yesterday to do an interview with us and made the 2-hour drive to come and talk with us.
Wow.
And
thank you.
Got to, yeah, absolutely. Really appreciated having her.
Yeah.
We got to learn about her career, where she's been. At just 18 years old, it's amazing. She's recorded albums in Nashville. She performed at the Love and Life Festival earlier this month, and she's performing at the headlining the Taste of Charlotte Festival next week on Friday. So she's done a lot in what seems like a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to get to learn about her. She has actually a really good voice.
Wow.
How you would expect someone in country music to sound. So it's really cool to hear her.
Very mature voice sounding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She does a lot of collaboration with another North Carolina musician named Garrett Huffman. And I got to say, when I heard their song on Spotify, A Story Like Ours, I got immediate glimpses to Loretta Lynn and Conway Twitty.
Oh, wow.
I was like, this is a cool combo, and really hope that they're able to keep going further and become bigger names, because they could be driving forces in country music in the not so near future. And it would be cool that we were some of the first people to feature her. I mean, our own Larry Sprinkle interviewed a Union County native. What's his name? He's a country singer.
I'm blanking either.
Randy Travis.
There we go.
Randy Travis.
Yes.
Larry Sprinkle.
Big one.
Larry Sprinkle interviewed Randy Travis years and years ago before he was a big star. So
that's cool.
Maybe Julia Golden can be our Randy Travis.
So you spoke to her one-on-one. Let's play this interview and learn more about Julia.
Today we are joined by a very special guest. She just performed at the Love and Life Festival here in Uptown Charlotte, and she is just about a week out from performing at the Taste of Charlotte Festival. And coolest of all, She's actually from North Carolina. Her name is Julia Golden, and she is joining us today. Julia, how are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. How was the traffic getting out here? I heard it was about a 2-hour drive for you all down here.
Yes, not too bad. We definitely had worse as much of the traveling that we do for music, so not
Really,
too bad.
really cool. So tell everyone out there on our Charlotte program, where in this wonderful state are you from?
Absolutely. So I'm from Carthage, North Carolina. It's a little tiny town right outside of Pinehurst, the big golf town. So we're about 2.5 hours out of Charlotte, and right there in the thick of things in North Carolina.
Really cool. So, as I said, you just performed at Love and Life with Garrett Huffman, right?
Absolutely.
How did that go?
It was such a cool experience. Garrett actually was invited to perform with his band, and we've been doing a lot of stuff together recently. We released a song last year and a couple of other things. And so he was like, hey, do you want to come out and perform with me? And of course, I jumped on the opportunity. Performing with Garrett and his band is always such a privilege, and being able to do it for an audience of that size was just the coolest opportunity as an artist of our size.
Really cool. What does it feel like to, I mean, I know you start out just hoping and praying to be a musician and hoping to get on a stage one day, and then you're finally there, finally at the big event like Love and Life.
It is a feeling like no other, honestly, just the feeling of your dreams coming true right before your eyes. I've been singing on stages as a musical theater performer since I was very young, but getting the opportunity to go up there and sing my original music and perform my words and mine and Garrett's words for so many people is just, it's a privilege that I'll never take for granted, and something that I'm so grateful that I got to experience, and hopefully will continue to as my career continues.
Really cool. So you and Garrett have had a partnership for a while. You have a pretty popular song on Spotify called A Story Like Ours.
Yes.
So this wasn't your first time getting together, and next week certainly won't be your first time getting together. What's the connection there with you two, and what brought you together?
Absolutely. It's kind of a funny story. So Garrett and I were both nominated against each other for a competition for the Carolina Country Music Awards, which is over both North and South Carolina. And we were nominated for the same category against each other for one of the competitions that they do throughout the year. And he found my music and my profile through that competition, and we ended up writing a song together, which was A Story Like Ours, on our first ever time meeting. And then we just decided this could go somewhere, and we cut the song, and we've been doing performances and writing music together ever since, and it's been such a blessing. And the partnership has allowed both of us to expand our careers, both geographically, since we're from opposite sides of the state, and also just in a musical standpoint. We write really good songs together, if we do say so ourselves, and we've been able to help each other grow as musicians a lot.
Awesome. I definitely got some Loretta Lynn and Conway Twitty vibes when I was listening to that song earlier.
I love it.
So really cool that you all are partnered together. And what's the preparation for you two like ahead of the Taste of Charlotte Festival on June 6th?
I'm actually leaving the studio and headed over to where we practice with the band. It's so fun being able to work with artists of our size, because honestly, just working together is like having a party with your friends. Like, we're just going over, gonna rehearse some of our favorite songs, make sure that we have everything perfect and ready to go. And then of course working on social media promotion and all of that fun stuff. There's a lot of things that go into the behind the scenes of all of these processes. Being able to kind of split the workload with Garrett and work together and be super creative about it is one of my favorite parts about doing the shows, besides of course the actual performance.
Cool. So once again, she will be at the Taste of Charlotte Festival performing from 11 to 2. Is that correct?
We're from 8 to 11
8
on
to
the
11.
main stage.
Cool.
Yes.
Is that PM?
PM, yes.
Wow. So you're headlining the whole thing. That
Yes.
is really cool. That's really awesome.
No pressure.
Yeah. So tell me about a little bit how you got into music and what kind of made you want to be a musician.
For sure. I've always been musically inclined. I've always just been one of those kind of creative left-brain people. I was in school always in the choir programs, the music programs. I played violin for a couple years in middle school. And so it was just never a question of anything else I was going to do. It was always going to be music or something in the creative arts. Like I mentioned before, I did musical theater for 13 years. And my junior year of high school, I started doing some gigs around town. I went to boarding school, kind of a long story. But I ended up deciding that musical theater was not the path for me at that time, as much as I still love it, and that songwriting allowed me so much more creative liberty, and I was able to kind of control the kind of art that I was creating and be a lot more honest and authentic with it. So I kind of transitioned to that, and I've been doing it for over a year now, which is crazy to say. And I've just always loved music, and being able to do it on a ever-expanding platform is such a blessing, and I'm so excited to see where the journey continues to go.
Awesome. So you bring up songwriting a lot. What is kind of your method, or what kind of things inspire you to write the songs you make?
I take songwriting inspiration from literally everywhere and everything. I've written songs about my favorite books, or songs inspired by my favorite books. I've written songs about people in my life, my family members, my friends, personal experiences that have happened to me. Sometimes I'll just make up a tale and I'll tell it through song. It kind of just depends, but I love being able to be creative in so many different kinds of ways, and have full creative control about the story that I want to tell and what I want to present to the world. So there's not really a rhyme or reason in the way that I do it. Sometimes I just sit down with my songbook and it flows. Sometimes it takes months to write a song, sometimes it takes hours, sometimes it takes minutes. It kind of just depends. But every single one comes out unique and comes out a very honest portrayal of whatever I was trying to say.
Cool. And you just had an EP come out a couple months ago, Everywhere I've Been. Tell me about the process behind recording that, writing for it, and what went into it.
That was a lot of fun. Everywhere I've Been, it's got 6 songs on it, and I wrote all of those songs between the ages of 16 and 18 years old. And what I love about them is they kind of show all of the different, parts of my artistry, the different kinds of songs that I write, the different, both stylistically, melody-wise, lyrically, all of those things. It shows kind of the whole range of what I like to do as a performer and as a songwriter. And it also shows the different phases of my life. 16 to 18 are arguably some of the most formative years of your life, especially your young adult life. And so it's really cool that I was able to kind of document that through song, and I'll be able to have that forever. But I wrote, like I said, those songs. Some of the songs, as I started to produce the EP, I wrote them after, like during the process. When you're such a new artist and you're writing a million songs all the time, sometimes a good one will come out of nowhere and you'll be like, all right, that's going on the project. So that happened a couple times throughout this, but we recorded it in Nashville with Jesse Savio at Savio Productions. He also runs a songwriting round called The Get Up, and I've worked with Jesse for over a year now. He produced every single song on the album, and he did such an incredible job with it. Garrett now works with him a little bit as well, and we're going to be working with him more in the future. He's just amazing, and I think he really brought this to life, and it was really cool being a new artist and being able to kind of really formulate what I want my sound and my style to feel like and sound like. And this whole project was just a really great creative process for me, and a lot of self-discovery as both a person and an artist through the process as well.
Awesome. And where was this recorded at?
In Nashville, or Mount Juliet, but Nashville, Tennessee.
Cool. So that's kind of something I see on every country artist, every artist of a lot of genres, is they love putting Nashville recording artists on their bio. What does it feel like to be able to do that and say that?
It's so cool, because I grew up hearing all of my favorite albums, country songs, even non-country songs, like you said, that were recorded in Nashville, that were written in Nashville, that started in Nashville. And so kind of being able to treat that as like a second home for me is such a blessing. I've been going back and forth to Nashville once a month for almost a year now, and I like to say I'm dually based in North Carolina and Nashville because I spend so much time there. It's a really cool privilege to be able to say that, and it makes me feel like I'm a part of some exclusive club that I always wanted to be in growing up. It's really, really cool.
Awesome. So you've spent a lot of time in Nashville. Obviously, you grew up in North Carolina. So tell our Charlotte, North Carolina audience, which of the 2 places do you prefer and why?
Oh, that's so hard to say. I think my Julia Golden performer side likes Nashville more. It's just a place where I'm surrounded by creativity and surrounded by the things that I love 100% of the time, which is the coolest thing ever. I always come back home from Nashville with 2 or 3 songs in the book that I'm so ready to get to the studio with, because it's just so much inspiration everywhere. You can take creative inspiration from anything, but I think the more personal side of myself loves home more. North Carolina will always have my heart. My little small town will always have my heart. And most of the inspiration that I write those songs about comes from the place where I grew up and the place that I call home, and where all my family are. So I love both for their own reasons, but I think North Carolina will always have my heart. I don't think anything will ever beat it.
Awesome. Well, we'd love to hear that. Do you think, so I just moved to North Carolina about 3 years ago now, so I was, when I moved here, and still to this day, I'm blown away by just the scenery and everything here. Do you think that adds to kind of the songwriting? Do you think that helps like set the mood for the kind of the stuff that you write about?
Absolutely. North Carolina is such a beautiful state. Not a lot of people even realize that. If you're from outside of the state, you'd think of Charlotte, like the big city, or Raleigh in the big city, where most of North Carolina is absolutely beautiful. I actually grew up in a super tiny town in North Carolina called Goldston, where my grandparents live, and they have a huge 60-acre property with a rock quarry that they built in the 80s, and that is literally one of my, or that they purchased in the 80s, and that is one of my biggest inspirations as a songwriter. The place just brings so much peace and joy to me, and whenever you're surrounded by such beauty, it allows you to create art in a completely different way. And so while the hustle and the bustle of the big city in Nashville is such a great thing, the quiet, beautiful scenery that we have in North Carolina just offers so much more space to create art and to just fill it with all kinds of creativity.
Awesome. So we've mentioned North Carolina, we've mentioned Nashville, and obviously that's why your first concert, I read, was in Oregon. Tell me how that happened.
Yes. Oh my goodness. We did our research. So I performed for the first time when I was 11 years old. That was my first time performing as a songwriter and not as in a musical theater role. I hadn't even learned how to play guitar yet. I was playing my little ukulele that we had to mic up because I couldn't plug it in. And it was such a cool experience. My aunt actually runs a nonprofit organization called Kids Rock and Girls Rock out of Eugene, Oregon, which is right outside of University of Oregon campus for those that aren't familiar. And they provided me with my first guitar. The nonprofit organization focuses on bringing music education and basically just spreading music as far as they can to children that don't have as many opportunities or maybe not as much access to music. And they were the first people that put a guitar in my hands and basically gave me the confidence and the stage to be able to perform my own music and my own personal heart in that way. And so I have so much love for Oregon. That's where my dad spent a lot of his childhood, and a lot of my family still lives. And most of the musicians and creatives in my family live on that side of the world. So it's always really cool to go back there, and I wish that I could go back soon. But of course, busy schedule, and Oregon isn't exactly a short drive.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really, really cool getting my start there, and it's kind of cool to be able to get your start in a place where there's nothing but love there. You don't got to worry about impressing your friends from school. You don't got to worry about any of those things. You can just create, and it was the coolest experience ever, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Cool. And hopefully maybe you can go back on a tour
I'd love it.
touring the country or something.
One day.
Speaking of which, what are your next steps in your career? Obviously you have this big show coming up next week, but any new music, any shows planned in the near future?
Absolutely. Well, I'm playing a show next Friday. Of course, next Friday is Taste of Charlotte, and I've got shows this Friday. I perform almost every single weekend. I have so much fun doing it. It's so cool to be able to say that I'm a country singer for a living at 18 years old. But I'm just chugging along. We're going back and forth to Nashville, of course, producing new music. Not too much that I can talk about yet. I've got a lot of cool things coming up this summer that I'm also not allowed to talk about yet, but I'm very excited to share. I do modeling and acting, so I'm getting into those things as well more this year. Just trying to keep working hard, pounding the pavement, do all the things that you got to do to be a country singer, and trying to grow myself as an artist and as a person in the process.
Awesome. And I guess just lastly, what are your goals for your music? What do you hope to? Who do you hope to become? What kind of a person do you hope to become?
Of course, the first thing that comes to mind whenever you ask any artist this is I want to be Taylor Swift selling out stadiums, or Coldplay playing the Super Bowl and things like that. And of course, all of those things are true, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of hard work to be Taylor Swift, all of which I'm willing to put in. But as of right now, I just want to be a better artist than I was yesterday, every single day. I want to get as many opportunities as I can through my original music and through my songwriting. And I just want to be authentic to my audience. I want them to be someone that not only they enjoy listening to, but someone that they enjoy relating to and that they can see themselves in. I'm just a regular girl. I graduated a regular small town high school. I write songs in my little small town in my bedroom with my cute little dog. And I just want to make a living off of my original music and share it with as many people as I possibly can.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all we had to ask from you today, unless there's anything else about your career or yourself or anyone you'd like to thank out there that made this all possible.
Honestly, the people that made this all possible was my parents. My dad's here with me in the studio today, and they've just been the biggest supporters. I've always said if I told them that I wanted to be an Olympic swimmer tomorrow, they'd be like, all right, let's go ahead, figure out a pool that you can go swim at. They've been supporting me in every single thing that I've ever done, any career path I've ever had, and it's full steam ahead. They'll ask me, like, do you feel pressure from the music? And I've always said that it's not the music that they're supporting, it's me that they're supporting. And so shout out to my parents. They're the greatest in the world, and they're my why.
Awesome. Well, once again, this was Julia Golden with us here on WCNC Plus. We were absolutely a privilege to have her in here. Julia, thank you so much for coming down today.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
Personality too. You can really see that, and I'm sure that comes across when she performs as well. So looking forward to that. Remember, the taste of Charlotte. I think I said that wrong, but you know what I mean. Charlotte tastes, right?
Taste of Charlotte. Taste of Charlotte.
Okay. All right. Charlotte's Love and Life Festival. She's talked a little bit about that alongside Garrett Huffman, so it's cool to see and hear her story and then her rise as she's getting closer to fame. And honestly, being in Nashville, that's where it all really takes off. So it sounds like she's in the right place, hopefully at the right time. So any other comments that you wanted to just to close out on so that we know or figure out some things here?
Sure. So obviously you can check her out on Spotify or wherever else you get your music streamed. She's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those social medias too. So you know, she's an awesome personality, and she's from North Carolina, so it'd be great to support her. So really glad she was able to take the time to talk with us this week.
Awesome. And then don't give it away, but for the next Charlotte Sound segment next week, who are you going to be talking to? Can we talk about that?
We got a big band who's coming down to Charlotte in July. I don't want to give it away too much.
Yes, I know. I gave it away earlier, so if you're watching.
It's okay. I mean,
sorry.
There's probably no reason to hide it. I just
yes, there is. We want them to watch.
We want to tease it.
Right.
I'm going to say it's Mr. Roboto, Come Sail Away, and Renegade. So if you know what those phrases, words mean together in that
or
order,
Google them maybe,
then you might know what's coming up next week.
I can't wait, man. This band is gonna be cool. I got a lot of questions that I'm gonna send to you that maybe you would want to ask. I'm sure you have your own as well, but it's so great to have you on, Nathaniel. Really appreciate that. I think we learned so much about other music and really the music that people should be and maybe hopefully can listen to and take in as well. So thank you so much for sharing your passion with us. This is Charlotte Sounds right here on WCNC Plus, my friend. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right. Now that we talked about local music headlines, that's a tough act to follow, by the way. We are going to go to the normal press conference from the White House, the press briefing that happens every day from Caroline Leavitt. We'll go to this discussion on many things earlier today.
Wow, a packed room today. Yes, ma'am. Last night, the Trump administration faced another example of judicial overreach. Using his full and proper legal authority, President Trump imposed universal tariffs and reciprocal tariffs on Liberation Day to address the extraordinary threat to our national security and economy posed by large and persistent annual U.S. goods trade deficits. The United States has run a trade deficit of goods every year since 1975. In 2024, our trade deficit in goods exceeded $1 trillion. Everybody agrees this is unacceptable. President Trump is delivering on his promise to fix this problem, and he has taken a long overdue and much needed bold stance for American workers after decades of our manufacturing base being hollowed out. The president's rationale for imposing these powerful tariffs was legally sound and grounded in common sense. President Trump correctly believes that America cannot function safely long-term if we are unable to scale advanced domestic manufacturing capacity, have our own secure critical supply chains, and our defense industrial base is dependent on foreign adversaries. 3 judges of the U.S. Court of International Trade disagreed and brazenly abused their judicial power to usurp the authority of President Trump to stop him from carrying out the mandate that the American people gave him. These judges failed to acknowledge that the President of the United States has core foreign affairs powers and authority given to him by Congress to protect the United States economy and national security. Congress had created the National Emergency Act to provide the congressional framework to strike down improper IEEPA use. And any questions over whether President Trump improperly imposed these IEEPA tariffs were already adjudicated in Congress following Liberation Day. Congress firmly rejected an effort led by Senator Rand Paul and Democrats to terminate the president's reciprocal tariffs. The courts should have no role here. There is a troubling and dangerous trend of unelected judges inserting themselves into the presidential decision-making process. America cannot function if President Trump, or any other president for that matter, has their sensitive diplomatic or trade negotiations railroaded by activist judges. President Trump is in the process of rebalancing America's trading agreements with the entire world, bringing tens of billions of dollars in tariff revenues to our country, and finally ending the United States of America from being ripped off. These judges are threatening to undermine the credibility of the United States on the world stage. The administration has already filed an emergency motion for a stay pending appeal and an immediate administrative stay to strike down this egregious decision. But ultimately, the Supreme Court must put an end to this for the sake of our Constitution and our country. With Congress returning next week, it's critical that Senate Republicans maintain the momentum and quickly pass the One Big Beautiful Bill. The One Big Beautiful Bill will truly make America safe and prosperous. The One Big Beautiful Bill includes the largest border security investment ever. That's why the law enforcement groups are lining up to encourage its swift passage. The National Fraternal Order of Police, the largest police union in the country, just endorsed key provisions of the bill. The FOP president announced their strong support, saying the One Big Beautiful Bill Act is more than legislation. It is a promise kept to the public safety officers across the country and a bold step toward an economy that respects, rewards, and uplifts the people who keep it safe. And the National Border Patrol Council, which represents nearly 20,000 Border Patrol agents, hailed the legislation as well. The group's president said this legislation provides a once-in-a-generation investment in the border security of our great country and will make America safer. The One Big Beautiful Bill will guarantee we can permanently have the safest, strongest, and most secure immigration system in American history. I also want to take the opportunity to debunk some false claims that have been circulating in the press about this bill. The blatantly wrong claim that the One Big Beautiful Bill increases the deficit is based on the Congressional Budget Office and other scorekeepers who use shoddy assumptions and have historically been terrible at forecasting across Democrat and Republican administrations alike. For example, just before Congress enacted the original Trump tax cuts at the end of 2017, the same CBO projected that growth would average a mere 1.9% over the next 10 years. However, by 2019, actual growth had surged to 3.4% once the Trump tax cuts went into effect, exceeding the CBO forecast by nearly 2 full percentage points. The CBO's latest forecast makes the same anemic growth assumptions as they did in 2017, missing the impact of the One Big Beautiful Bill. The CBO assumes long-term GDP growth of an anemic 1.8%, and that is absurd. The American economy is going to boom like never before after the One Big Beautiful Bill is passed. The largest middle-class tax cut in history, massive deregulation, and the most aggressive domestic energy exploration ever will fuel small businesses, further boost private investment, increase workers' wages, and supercharge economic growth. The Council of Economic Advisors has factored in the effects of all these pro-growth policies and estimated in their own analysis that growth will average 3% in the long run after the One Big Beautiful Bill is passed, which is nearly double the ridiculous CBO projection. This higher growth would result in $4.1 trillion in additional revenue over the next 10 years. Between the common sense spending reforms contained in the One Big Beautiful Bill and the robust economic growth that will be generated as a result of it, there will be no increase to the deficit. The same analysis from the CEA shows just how this historic package will unleash prosperity and ignite a blue-collar boom across America. But if the radical Democrats get their way and the One Big Beautiful Bill does not pass, Americans will face a whopping $4 trillion tax hike. This is unacceptable to President Trump. President Trump will not allow Democrats to massively raise Americans' taxes. Senate Republicans must get this bill passed. Failure is not an option. The American people are counting on Republicans to deliver. In other news, despite all the doom casting from the media, Americans are growing more and more optimistic about the economy under this president. Consumer confidence surged in May with the biggest monthly jump in 4 years, smashing expectations. According to the release from the Consumer Confidence Index, the increase in confidence was broad-based across all age groups, income groups, and political affiliations. Our country is clearly heading in the right direction under President Trump's bold leadership. For the first time in history of Rasmussen polling, a majority of Americans believe the country is on the right track. It's unsurprising because the president is fulfilling the promises he made to the American people. Here in our new media seat today, we have the editor-in-chief of The Federalist, Molly Hemingway. The Federalist is led by Molly and Sean Davis and provides fearless journalism and coverage of politics and culture to millions of readers all over the world. Thank you for being here, Molly, and why don't you please kick us off?
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.
In the first Trump administration, there was an effort to stymie the agenda of Trump through the Russia collusion hoax perpetuated by many people in the media, including some people seated here, or the media outlets they represent, and other Democrats as well. The second Trump administration, to reference what you said at the beginning, seems to be subject to an effort to stymie the agenda using rogue lower court judges. You mentioned that the Supreme Court could and should do something to rein in these lower court judges. Also, Congress could do something about it, but they don't seem terribly interested in it. It also seems there's not much of an actual coordinated effort from this White House to take and tackle this effort from judges, Democrats and other people using these judges to stymie the agenda. Is there an actual effort by this White House to tackle this issue in a comprehensive way, and if so, what is it?
There is an effort by this administration to tackle these rogue judges and the injunctions and the blockades that we have faced in our broken judicial system in every case. I mean, we have seen time and time again these lower district court judges ruling against this administration in the president's basic executive authority and powers, and this administration is fighting every single one of those battles in court, including already the block that came down from the tariff court, the IEPA court last night. And as on my way out here to the briefing room, I understand that there was another district court judge right here in Washington, D.C. who ruled against the president's tariff power. And I will get to the heart of your question, and I'm glad that we are addressing this in the room today, because nationwide injunctions ordered against the first Trump administration, Trump 1.0, account for more than half of the injunctions issued in this country since 1963. And President Trump had more injunctions in one full month of office in February than Joe Biden had in 3 years. And let me roll through some of these radical injunctions to paint the picture for the American people at home. These are not just talking points. These are real judges in the court of law who are trying to block the president's power and the policies that he was elected to enact. For example, a court ordered the Trump administration to return already deported terrorist aliens back to the United States. A court has ruled the Trump administration can't even temporarily pause our refugee programs. Courts prohibited the Trump administration from eliminating federal funding for child transgender surgery and mutilation, a practice that the American people overwhelmingly reject. A court also held that the Trump administration could not ban people experiencing gender dysphoria or mental health issues from serving in the military. Ridiculous. Courts prohibited the removal of transgender women from women's prisons despite potential physical harm to real women in those prisons, biological women. A Northern District of California judge issued an absurd ruling that the president cannot fire people within the executive branch without Congress passing a bill, even though Congress has expressly authorized the president through the Office of Personnel Management to authorize reductions in force across agencies. A court also ordered the Trump administration to rehire thousands of already fired employees in several cases. A federal judge blocked the Trump administration from defunding the Department of Education, another signature campaign promise that this president has the power to implement. Courts ordered the Trump administration could not eliminate funding for illegal DEI programs, hence the word illegal. These are illegal programs to begin with, and now the courts are trying to say this president can't roll them back. And a district court judge prohibited the president from issuing any categorical funding freezes. And then another court ordered on top of that the administration makes $2 billion of payments in 36 hours. These are just a few of the ridiculous orders that we have seen from lower district court judges every day, and we hope that the Supreme Court will weigh in and rein them in.
But White House advisor Stephen Miller says it's judicial tyranny. Some people are calling it a judicial coup. You're saying you're responding to each and every one of these actions, efforts by these judges to delay or thwart the implementation of the agenda. But is there going to be anything more than that, or is it just going to let this operation continue, even though it could delay everything for years until the presidency is over?
The administration is operating under the directive given to from the president that we need to comply with the court's orders. He's made that very clear, but we're going to fight them in court, and we're going to win on the merits of these cases because we know we are acting within the president's legal and executive authorities. And thanks for being here. Gabe.
Thank you, Caroline. Question on tariffs, but first actually some foreign policy news, some breaking news. Some local Israeli media is reporting that Prime Minister Netanyahu told hostage families that he's accepted a 60-day truce offer. So can you confirm, have Israel and Hamas agreed to a truce?
I can confirm that Special Envoy Witkoff and the President submitted a ceasefire proposal to Hamas that Israel backed and supported. Israel signed off on this proposal before it was sent to Hamas. I can also confirm that those discussions are continuing, and we hope that a ceasefire in Gaza will take place so we can return all of the hostages home, and that's been a priority from this administration from the beginning. I won't comment further as we are in the midst of this right now.
So to be clear, you don't know if Hamas has accepted it yet?
Not to my knowledge, but certainly if that becomes case and this ceasefire goes into effect, you'll hear it directly from myself, the President, or Special Envoy Witkoff.
And on tariffs, Kevin Hassett earlier this morning, he brushed off a legal ruling and called it a hiccup, and he said that trade deal negotiations would continue. Why would other countries continue these trade deal negotiations given the ruling?
Because other countries around the world have faith in the negotiator-in-chief, President Donald J. Trump. And they also probably see how ridiculous this ruling is, and they understand that the administration is going to win, and we intend to win. We already filed an emergency appeal. We expect to fight this battle all the way to the Supreme Court. These other countries should also know, and they do know, that the President reserves other tariff authorities, Section 232, for example, to ensure that America's interests are being restored around the world. But I can confirm that our Ambassador for Trade, Jamison Greer, already heard from countries around the world this morning who said they intend to continue with these negotiations. Peter.
Thank you, Caroline. So many of the President's plans right now are being blocked by courts. If the courts are going to be the ones who are shaping policy, does the President wish he would have just become a judge instead?
I think the President would take this job over being a judge, and certainly the President is acting within his authority. He wishes judges would do the same.
But so the courts are basically telling you guys they think that the White House's policies, the President's policies, are in some way against the law. So why can't President Trump ask the Republicans that control the House and the Republicans that control the Senate just to make a new law?
Well, these laws have already been granted to the President by the Constitution and by laws that have been previously passed. I'll give you another example. For instance, we've been blocked in court for the revocation of visas from individuals who have the privilege of studying in the United States of America. Secretary of State Rubio has simply used his authority to revoke those visas, to revoke that privilege, and we've seen the courts try to block that. So if these judges want to be the Secretary of State or they want to be the President, they can run for office themselves. It should be the other way around. But all of the actions the President has taken rely on legal authorities that have already been granted to him by our nation's existing laws.
And on a different topic, there are some folks in President Biden's inner circle who are now in talks with Republicans in Congress to give interviews about how they may have handled President Biden's decline. Is the President satisfied with aides only sitting for these transcribed interviews, or would he also like to see some kind of testimony from the former First Lady, Dr. Biden?
I think, frankly, the former First Lady should certainly speak up about what she saw in regards to her husband and when she saw it and what she knew, because I think anybody looking, again, at the videos and photo evidence of Joe Biden with your own eyes and a little bit of common sense can see this was a clear cover-up. And Jill Biden was certainly complicit in that cover-up. There's documentation, video evidence of her clearly shielding her husband away from the cameras. They were just on The View last week. She was saying everything is fine. She's still lying to the American people. She still thinks the American public are so stupid that they're going to believe her lies. And frankly, it's insulting, and she needs to answer for it. Ouija.
Thank you, Caroline. President Trump was asked what he thought about Elon Musk's claim that the big, beautiful bill increases the budget deficit and undermines the work of DOGE. And the president didn't actually comment on those remarks. He just talked about the need to support the bill. So what does the president think about what Elon Musk said?
Well, the president is very proud of the one big, beautiful bill, and he wants to see it pass. He wants the Senate to get to work on it and send it to his desk as quickly as possible. Of course, as you know, Elon Musk announced last night his departure as an official special government employee from the Trump administration. We thank him for his service. We thank him for getting DOGE off of the ground, and the efforts to cut waste, fraud, and abuse will continue.
So he doesn't have any comment about Musk saying it adds to the deficit and it undermines all his work?
The president commented on this. I commented on it. I told you that this bill saves $1.6 trillion according to the Council of Economic Advisors and the analyses that the president believes in. So he gave a comment, I gave a comment. Just because you don't like that comment doesn't mean it's not a comment. Rachel.
Thanks, Caroline. Back on trade, I know you said the White House is going to fight this ruling in court. Is the administration actively reviewing other avenues, other options to carry out the president's trade policy?
The president's trade policy will continue. We will comply with the court orders, but yes, the president has other legal authorities where he can implement tariffs. However, it does not dispute the fact that the president was right to declare a national emergency when it came to fentanyl and when it came to our crippling deficits and the lack of critical supply chains here at home. That is the reasoning for the president's tariffs. And the court didn't dispute those facts, by the way. And there have been other courts that have reaffirmed the president's position. In fact, a ruling in federal court earlier this month shows that the administration is in the right, said we will win on appeal. A federal district judge in Florida ruled that IEEPA, in fact, does grant the president the authority to unilaterally impose tariffs. And 20 years ago, I will add, they are not a court, the New York Times editorial board responded to the January 2005 trade deficit of $58.3 billion by writing an editorial entitled Dangerous Deficits. And since then, our trade deficit has more than doubled. The U.S. trade deficit in January totaled a whopping $131.4 billion. So people on both sides of the aisle, pundits, lawyers, legal scholars, politicians have all agreed that it is a national emergency, our trade deficits and our lack of critical supply chains here at home. It's just President Trump was the first president to actually act on it to restore that wealth and that prosperity to the United States of America. And it's very unfortunate that the courts are now blocking his attempts to do that.
So has the administration then reached the point where you are actually asking your economic advisors to start reviewing other avenues to implement the president's trade policy, or do you want to just see this legal process take place for now?
We can walk and chew gum at the same time. We are doing both. Josh.
The Fed says the president met with the Fed chair earlier today. I'm wondering if you can give us any readout of that meeting. The Fed also says that they discussed the economy. I imagine the president might have shared views on rates as well, but what can you share?
I can share with you that we saw, the president and I both saw the statement that the Fed put out after the meeting. That statement is correct. However, the president did say that he believes the Fed chair is making a mistake by not lowering interest rates, which is putting us at an economic disadvantage to China and other countries. And the president's been very vocal about that, both publicly and now I can reveal privately as well.
Did he speak at all about his plans for that position, but whether he would seek to move Jay Powell out of that position or keep him in until his term ends?
No.
Okay.
Kristen.
Ask very quickly on the tariff question. You mentioned Section 232 earlier. Are you suggesting that you might sort of speed up some of the existing 232 investigations? Or are you talking potentially using 232 as a replacement power if this ruling doesn't go your way? Of course, you hope it does.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm just simply stating the fact that the president has other legal authorities he can use to implement tariffs, and the administration is willing to use those. As you know, we already have applied Section 232 tariffs on specific industries.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
President Trump said that he needed 1.5 to 2 weeks to determine whether or not he believed Vladimir Putin wanted peace. He has been in office now for 4 months. What does he believe is going to happen in the next 1.5 to 2 weeks that would change his opinion?
Well, it is my understanding and it is our hope that Russia and Ukraine will engage in direct talks and negotiations next week in Istanbul, and we believe that meeting is going to take place, and that is a meeting the president encouraged and urged for these two sides to come together and negotiate directly. And the president has been clear from the very beginning of this conflict that he wants to see this conflict solved on the negotiating table, not on the battlefield, and he's told that to both leaders, again, both publicly and privately. So hopefully next week it will move the ball forward in this.
Is the United States going to participate in those conversations?
We will let you know if the president plans to send a representative. I'm not tracking that at this time. Kelly in the back.
Thanks, Caroline.
Sure.
I wanted to just clarify once and for all the Qatari jet, the sale or the gift, because the Qatari government is asking the U.S. to clarify that the jet's pending transfer was initiated by the Trump administration. So is this something that the White House is going to do?
The amount of questions we've received, and we've been incredibly clear, and I have answered this, the president has answered this, the Department of Defense has answered this. This is a government-to-government gift transfer from the Qataris to the Department of Defense, to the United States Air Force. It is now in their hands, and for further details on where that stands, I would defer you to the Department of Defense and the United States Air Force. I have nothing more for you on that. Deanna.
Thanks, Caroline. 2 questions, one on Big Beautiful Bill, one on immigration.
Sure.
Yesterday, Trump said, we'll be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. Wondering if you could, share any specifics on that. And on immigration, do you know how many illegal migrants have taken Trump's voucher program so far and have deported themselves?
I believe it's in the thousands of those who have chosen the easier route of self-deportation, and we certainly encourage all illegal aliens who are present within our homeland to take that option. It's a much more pleasant option than being deported, and we will deport you if you're here illegally. That's our intention. As for the first question, what the president was speaking about is how this is a great bill. However, it has come as a result of a hard negotiation. It's difficult to get things done on Capitol Hill, but thanks to President Trump, this bill is moving in the right direction, and thanks to House Republicans and the leadership over there as well, who did a great job mediating both sides of the caucus to move this bill to the Senate. And now the president, again, has told his friends on the Senate side and is already engaged in those conversations to get that bill back to his desk as soon as possible. Sure.
Has this administration been briefed about the incident that happened in Gaza on Tuesday during the rollout of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation distribution of aid to Palestinians there? And should there be a ceasefire, will this administration continue to rely on this foundation for the distribution of aid to civilians?
Are you referring, what incident are you referring to?
On Tuesday,
when the aid was rolled out to Gaza for the first time in many months, and meals and food was given to hungry people thanks to President Trump. Yes, we were briefed on that plan. The president was the reason that aid went into Gaza, and he got the Israelis to support that plan. And I would add that the previous administration rejected such a plan to ensure that these starving and devastated people in the Gaza Strip were given humanitarian aid and assistance. And it was the previous administration that tried to build this pier, if you all remember it. It was brought to my attention this morning, and I thought that's a good point. Why don't I bring that up? Because there's been so much criticism. In fact, it was on the front page of a newspaper this morning about the criticism for this president having a humanitarian heart and giving people badly needed food and supplies. Nobody wanted to talk about how the previous administration failed in that endeavor. They built this pier that cost $230 million. It lasted about 20 days, and more than 60 U.S. service members were injured, as a part of this floating aid pier that did nothing for the people of Gaza. The president is opening up his humanitarian heart to get aid into the region while his team simultaneously negotiates a ceasefire and the return of all hostages. We are moving the ball forward in a positive direction for all people. The president wants to see peace for all people. Jasmine.
Thanks so much, Caroline. A notice investigation found that the Hallmark Maha Commission report that was released last week cites studies that appear to not exist. We know that because, in part, we reached out to some of the listed authors who said that they didn't write the studies cited. So I want to ask, does the White House have confidence that the information coming from HHS can be trusted?
Yes, we have complete confidence in Secretary Kennedy and his team at HHS. I understand there were some formatting issues with the Maha report that are being addressed, and the report will be updated, but it does not negate the substance of the report, which, as you know, is one of the most transformative health reports that has ever been released by the federal government and is backed on good science that has never been recognized by the federal government.
And a quick follow-up, can you talk about what tools or research goes into production of these kinds of reports? For instance, is it AI that's used to put together these reports now?
I can't speak to that. I would defer you to the Department of Health and Human Services. What I know is just what I told you. Lindsay.
Thank you, Caroline. Many small businesses that we've talked to since the tariffs have been in.
All right, an action-packed 2 hours as we kind of wrap things up here on WCNC Plus and the Impact News stream. Of course, we had Nathaniel Puente on about 30 minutes or so ago talking about Charlotte Sounds, some of the people and bands that you should listen out for. So definitely stream that when you have a chance. Download WCNC Plus. But for now, we'll see you at 11 o'clock with Vanessa Rufus and Colin Mayfield.